Hi, beautiful people, and welcome back to Her Blueprints podcast, where we share stories from women engineering tomorrow. And I've got another very special guest with me here today. And as always, I like to let them introduce themselves. Sam, thank you so much for honoring the invite. Yeah.
Thank you. Sam Breslin. I work at Engeny with NOC, and I'm a principal engineer and the discipline lead for our environmental management and approvals team at Engeny. I've been there, about 9 years.
We can start from the kind of work that you do every day, what that looks like, what kind of the projects that you're working on as well.
Sure. So my current role is very broad. So we, if I'm describing what I do, which is what I do to clients like every day, it's from the front end of a project. If you're looking to construct something or build something, there's like approvals that might be required. You might need to engage with the regulator. So we do what we call like all that front end work. There's also identification of constraints in the environment, things that you need to be protected or avoided or mitigated. So we would look at all of those different factors as well. And then we work all the way through to the construction or operational phases of projects as well. How to maintain compliance, how do you comply with the conditions that have been enforced upon your project. If things go wrong or there's accidents, how do you sort of get things better again? So really through like the full phase of a project. And like working for all the different sectors as well. So obviously resources, but working for governments and developers and private industries. That's the day-to-day at the moment.
What does a typical day look like?
In my role currently, it's a people management role. So I lead a team of about 10, 12 people. So there is a large component that is people management. Which is part of that role. And that's good. It's a really good opportunity. I've only been in this position for just over a year, 18 months or so. And to be able to sort of guide, sustain, grow a team and sort of build off everyone's strengths and the vision of where the team wants to go. It's definitely not about me saying this is what I want to do and everyone has to do it. It's around where do we want to go as a team within Engeny? Who do we want to work for? What sectors do we want to explore? Like it's trying to get that energy and investment from the team and then just making that happen. But day to day, it's a lot of meetings. And then a lot of support and reviews for people. So I'm not doing too much of the real like doing at the moment, but can step in to help manage a meeting or review a report or provide advice, technical advice to the people under me who manage projects. That's the day-to-day.
You talked a bit about guiding, sustaining, and growing a team. And I want to ask you about your leadership role and what you think have been some of like the critical skills that have enabled you to keep carrying on the role.
I think when you're in leadership role, it's the soft skills. I've been in positions in the past in different companies where you would have a new manager come in and they didn't even have the same background as you. So we did environmental engineering, you're in environmental roles, and then you have a manager come in who has a health background. The philosophy is that if you can draw that expertise from your team, then your role as a leader is to be able to help guide them and help make decisions and get that input from them. But you're not necessarily the one that would have that in-depth technical experience.
Yeah.
Now that's not necessarily this case. Like I do have an environment background, so and that definitely helps. But yeah, it's being able to do a lot more of those other soft skill and type of attributes. So communication, having presence. I try to have good presence within an office environment. So I feel it's hard to manage a team well if you're always working from home or away from the office or traveling. How do you know how your team is feeling or what they're really thinking if you're not there all the time. So communication and presence, trying to listen and not dive straight in with a solution to a problem is a hard one for me. I like to be helpful, and if someone comes with a question, your sort of automatic first response is just to give them what you think as an answer. But there's a coaching element of I guess being a leader where you're trying to get them to come to you with their ideas and their solutions and help coax that sort of out through more open-ended questions. And I'm very transparent about that now in my leadership style, and I will someone might ask a question and I'll just be blunt and be like, I'm going to give you a coaching answer and just sort of turn it into a bit of a joke. So I'm not obviously just avoiding the question, but trying to help them not feel afraid to suggest what they think, because most of the time it's exactly right. They just want that little bit of like confirmation and sort of cross-check.
That kind of makes my brain go towards the confidence aspect. Because obviously I've seen you ask questions in like whole staff meeting, which I'm like too timid to do and stuff like that, or like in those town halls and stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to hear a bit about how you kind of maintain, keep that confidence, have that confidence, and also like during very high pressure and like technical situations.
Yeah, good question. I think at Engeny, a lot of my feeling comfortable about speaking up is because I truly feel work in a workplace where I do feel safe to speak up, because I know the people I work with. I've been there for so long. I trust them and the relationships that we have, which allows an environment where I can ask a question or pose a conflicting idea, and I'm not worried about the repercussions of that, which is I'm very, very grateful to be in a workplace where I feel I can do that. But you're right, it is something I possibly take for granted. I'll always remember we had a new principal start in a different team, and he was talking to our managing director quite closely. They're working quite closely together, and I was in a all staff meeting, and I posed a couple of thoughtful questions to the director around a process that they were trying to improve, without really even thinking about it. It wasn't something to make anyone look bad. It was just questions. And then later on I saw that new principal and our director together, just getting a coffee, and he was like, wow, like you asking those questions, and to the director, I was like, you have guts, something like that. And it was nothing. It was just because I had that existing relationship there. I felt very comfortable, but I didn't realize how it appears to other people. So that's where it comes from. But in terms of like technical situations, I do like to, or obviously everyone wants to feel that they know everything, and that they would always be able to have the answer. But the reality is we don't. There are situations and questions that will be asked where you don't know the answer. So not being afraid to say that, to take the question away, to say that you'll need to talk to other people to confer and get other people's opinions. I think that's very important. People will say fake it till you make it, and there's an element of that is important, to show like, I can take this on. But you go away and you do the work and the research and you get the information, and then you learn it. You don't pretend for the entirety of that project. Being prepared. If you know what you're going into, if it's a meeting with a client or a staff member, like just trying to have a think about what it is that is going to be discussed, and if there are knowledge gaps, then trying to close them.
I want us to backtrack a bit. I did a little bit of LinkedIn stalking and I saw you went to QUT. UQ.
Yeah.
I keep confusing them.
That's like similar letters in both.
UQ.
Yes.
Yeah. And I want to know a bit about your time at uni, and if engineering was something you kind of always knew you wanted to do, or kind of how you ended up there in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't someone who always knew what they wanted to do. Definitely not. So I'm from Cairns, as my hometown. And I remember being in grade 12 and everyone's putting in preferences for uni about what they want to do, where they want to go. And I was so stressed out trying to answer this question, which feels like the question being asked is, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And when you're, 17 years old, you're like, I have no idea. So I ended up enrolling in an IT degree, actually, up there, and then deferred because there was no strong passion attached to it. It was just something that I thought I might enjoy or be good at, but I wanted more time. So I worked, and during that year, I guess maybe broadened my thinking a little bit and realized that, I enjoyed the environment. I enjoyed being out in the environment, doing work that would be trying to help the environment, and engineering posed a really good mix of STEM-based subjects, which I'd enjoyed, and then a career that would hopefully be a mix of being able to get out in the field a little bit, but also like problem solving and report writing and just some of those things that I enjoyed as well. And from a job security perspective, I felt hopefully it would be a degree that would lead to being able to get a job as well. So I guess it felt right. It wasn't I didn't think about it and it just immediately go, no, I don't want to do that. It was actually the first thing I felt like, maybe this could be it. But it meant I had to leave home, which was, not something I necessarily wanted to do. But I am glad I did that, push myself sort of out of that comfort zone and moved down to Brizzy and stayed in college and did environmental engineering. Yeah.
Awesome. And what have been some of the highlights of your career? There's so many different things, and they're not necessarily all big, I think I'm proud of where I chose to go after I graduated. It was not, the best time in the market. There wasn't heaps of jobs available. But I've been very lucky in being offered a position that would be like an environmental advisor role up on in the mines, but it would require me to move away from my new home in Brisbane again, away from family and friends and everything. So making the decision again to go yes, I'll go do that. I'm very sort of proud of that. And it's ultimately led me to be here where I am today with the path that I've had. So it was the right decision to make. And I'm, proud of that, even though it's really just deciding whether to accept a job or not. But there's a lot of pros and cons in those decisions, and they can be quite difficult. But then, career-wise, I worked on some cool projects that I'm proud of that have led to some cool opportunities and publishing and
presenting at conferences, which has been awesome. And I got my CPAS qualification, which is a certified practitioner of erosion and sediment control, to spell it out. But yeah, it's just something to acknowledge, I guess, the interest and the work in that space. And that's been cool. Like, I haven't got my, RPQ or no child engineer at this stage, but, that's just something that aligned with where I was and my technical expertise. And I'm proud of those.
Awesome. What are there things that you wish you knew at the start of your career? It's okay if you didn't, because sometimes people will say, I had to go through the process to learn the things. But just some things you kind of wish, I wish someone had told me that when I was starting out.
I was thinking about something like this recently, and it's not necessarily the technical element of what we do. So this is going to be applicable to any career, but what we don't, I feel, get taught at school, or at least I didn't when I was going through, is what the different pathways that you can choose in the careers, what they need and demand from you as like an individual. And what I mean by that is, if you want to study to become a doctor or a nurse, or a healthcare worker, you're going to be required to be in like a hospital environment. Just by virtue of the work that you do, there is no work from home in most cases. Some careers might, if you do mining engineering, you're probably going to have to be working on a mine site or near a mine site or linked to mines. So trying to find jobs that might be more city-based or away from that environment are going to be more difficult. I don't know that as a student, we're sort of posed with enough questions to have a think about the pathway that you choose by picking this degree could dictate where you live and your ability to stay, working from home or to support a family, or how much money you're going to make. And only 10 years later down the track, you go, in the case of someone working in healthcare, just because it's easier to, as an example, I don't have the flexibility to be able to support my family. Be there and look after them. I need to get help to do that, or I need to take time out of my career and stop to be able to do that. And it's great if we have that flexibility to make those decisions and to step out and step back in. But if you need that job and you need that money or something, then you may not have that luxury. And I look back sometimes and I wonder if I'd known now what I know then, would people choose completely different careers because it ultimately would allow them to do something that just fits in better with the lifestyle that they might want to lead, or the family values that they might have.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I went to school with someone who had been a nurse for 15 years. And they were like, nope, this is what I see myself doing in the next 30 years. And then they went to engineering school, and some of it had to do with the flexibility and the shift work. Yeah. And they were like, I don't think this is something that's going to work for me.
Yeah. And uni is good for that reason, because I think they test you, they put you into the work environment. We had to do undergrad work and vacation work, which is a good trial, right, of whether you'll enjoy the work. And same for nursing, you'll be in hospitals and working. And I think it hopefully allows you to get a taste of what it's like, and you can figure out sort of early on if it's going to work or not. Yeah,
it's true. What are some of the things that you struggled with at the start of your career?
Knowing nothing.
That's all of us. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I
ended up thinking of uni as it was a ticket to the workforce.
Yeah.
It builds up a lot of skills around, your ability to problem solve, to write a good report, to communicate, and obviously some of the like fundamentals from a technical perspective, but you can't possibly be taught everything. And my degree was it was a mix of chemical engineering and civil engineering subjects. So you're sort of getting a little bit of both. And it was like a taste, you do one semester on soil mechanics, but do I remember any of that now? Probably not. So really it was just getting that ticket, for lack of a better word, into the workforce. And then a lot of your learning comes through just doing it, whatever role you're doing. So going out to a rural location, you don't know anyone, you don't know the job. That was very confronting, as it would be for most people. And just really throwing yourself into that was the only way to sort of get through it. But yeah, that was a challenge early on. But I've again been very fortunate to have very supportive teams in the places I've worked, and people around me that have supported me and wanted, to give me opportunities and to see me, do the best that I can with them, and that helps so much. They know that you're in the deep end, they'll throw you in the deep end, but be there to support you through that, and sort of help you back. Yeah.
You talked a bit about being a leader, and obviously like you're in a leadership role, and I also wanted to touch on some of the things that journey has taught you, or some of the things that you've kind of picked up along the way that you're happy to share.
Good questions. These are new questions too. I'm not prepared for these questions. I moved across to Engeny about 3.5 years after being with BHP. So I'd been on the mines, living in these rural locations for about 3 years, and I liked the job. I liked the people. But I had been looking to try and get back to Brisbane, where my family was, my friends were, and I also was missing the technical element of my job. So when you're on the ground, it gives you really good skills. So it's a great opportunity, I think, for people straight out of uni. But there is a cap sometimes to how much you will use some of those technical skills that you learn in an engineering degree. If you need to do a water balance model of your site, rarely would the actual site themselves do that work. You don't have that technical expertise in-house. So that's where the consultants come in, and they help them do that work on behalf of the client, give them that product. So when I finally got back to Brisbane, it's talking to people I knew at Engeny already, and made that jump across to get back in touch with a lot of those skills that I hadn't really touched since university. But I also loved about Engeny, and I still do, is the values that they had, and that still try to uphold include transparency. So when you're in big workplaces, your immediate team and the people that you work with might be really great people, and they were, but the business as a whole is really big, and people at the top who you may never have met will make decisions, and you don't no idea what went into making those decisions. You don't really have a say or influence in them, and the people at the top won't have enough clarity on how those decisions will impact the people that by hearing it. But at Engeny, yes, it was smaller, but there was just this openness from everyone, and you spoke before about speaking up in all staff meetings. Like, it was that from the very beginning. Like, you as a grad or an engineer, you had the ability to ask a question, to put input into something. Or what I do is I pick problems and things. When new procedures are being posed or something like that, you can actually say, like, have you thought about this? It may not work well for this reason. Like, can we change this? And actually had that influence on the business and not just the technical things, but how the business was run as well. And that was awesome. So I think, that element of transparency and trying to use and get opinions and input from other people, like, that's been something that I've learnt and tried to take on from my time at Engeny and into the leadership role now.
Awesome. I want to ask you a bit about your experience as a woman in the field, because I know there's not very many of us. What has that been like for you?
On one hand, I feel very, very lucky. I'm not someone who had all these terrible situations. Even working out in the mines, perhaps it was the role as an enviro does attract, I think, more of a female demographic. So there was at least 2 other women in my team when I joined. But the teams I work with, regardless of anyone's gender, were all just really supportive. And so I think it's something that I do want and need to continue to hear about and learn about from other people, because I can't necessarily draw upon those experiences and they're not maybe as front of mind for me. I feel like it's similar to what Annalise, I think, was saying when she was here with you as well, around having a champion for you. I had that as well, and that's, I guess, now what I'm trying to at least emulate for other people, around, it doesn't matter what your background is, where you've come from, anything like that. Like, it's just about trying to draw out the best in that person and support that person. And I was going to say, before I went to this role, I was aware of the environment that it could be, and the challenges that might have been coming up, and again, wanting to be prepared for that. And so I had a cousin who was doing mining engineering at UQ, and wanted to ask him a few questions and get some advice. And he brought along a fellow female engineer that he was studying with, which was nice of him, and basically just had a chat over coffee. And one of the pieces of advice they said was to, when you go into that environment, that mining environment, as a young female, is to wear a wedding ring. Even though I'm not obviously, or wasn't at that time, married. And it's a practical tip, but I guess even having to suggest that, it's ideally we'd want to be at a stage where that's not needed. You don't have to have this pretend band of protection to stop people from, or maybe make people think about not approaching you in an uncomfortable way. Just what it was insinuating by that piece of advice was, again, confronting. But as it played out, as I said before, it's I think being fortunate to have really good people around you was what meant that I was able to grow through that and build that confidence, such that you felt like you could own that room and that meeting, and it didn't matter if you were the only female in my environment.
That's really good, and I like to hear that, because I keep sharing that I came from a completely different working environment, and I was on site, and quite often there were experiences that were almost horrific, And I'm just like, I don't know if I chose the right field and stuff like that. And when I talk to people from back home and I'm trying to explain what my experience here is like, I'm like, I don't even feel really that I'm a woman. Like, that's not a very confronting, which is completely different from here. And I guess part of it is to kind of show people that people are having fun in the field, and like there are some people who've not had the best experiences, but there's places where there's like really good experiences, and kind of how can we draw on that or also share that as well, because the version of the story that I was used to is just like not right at all.
Yeah.
We are going to go into the 5 ask questions, which you can answer a bit in depth or whatever. Purpose. Have fun with it. And we've not talked about kind of the work-life balance, because that's something that I like to talk about as well. Do you find how do you manage that? Do you find that work is kind of like overloading everything, or is it balanced on your end?
I think there's always the potential that it can take over. Yeah. So if I said that there hasn't been times when it's been full on, can. But I wouldn't say that's because it's a workplace or people that are forcing that to happen. It's a lot more around what expectations you put on yourself, and there not being enough hours in the day sometimes to be able to achieve what it is that you set out for yourself, or the standard that you want to achieve. And then when things come in that you're not expecting, like we try to map out our week with what you think you need to do, and then you go, yeah, that's enough work. But then what you can't stop is the 5 calls from clients, or the sort of crisis within your team that pops up that needs attention, and that's like a priority. So when all those things happen at once, like it becomes like a triage situation, and you're trying to prioritize, but then you're aware that you're not doing the things that you're meant to be doing. And yeah, if that happens too much and that keeps going, then you definitely get into periods where you're just working too much, and that's not where anyone wants to be. It's not in a leadership position where you want to be, because other people are looking at that. And we have had, I have had feedback in the past from, juniors and engineers, and I have scientists and management people on my team too. So I try not to just say engineers all the time. But yeah, they're sort of like looking at my position and going, I don't want to ever have your job. It's too busy. You're just, you're working too much. Like, why would I want that? Which is a real shame, because you want people, not everyone wants to keep moving up. That's fine. Some people find a job at a level and they just want to stay doing that. They want to become experts in that. But, other people might want to aspire to lead a team or be a manager, or even get to CEO or something. And if they're seeing these positions and then going, like, I don't want to do that, regardless of that being my pathway, then that's telling you that something's not right. I try and be better these days, and part of that is through accepting that you can't do everything anymore. In a leadership position, I guess part of some of the training that you do, or that's been offered to us as part of moving into these positions, is around when you step up, you sort of have to identify things to let go of. So every time you move up, you're letting go of something more. And it's not like a bad thing. It's just changing the approach to how you do things. So instead of being the one that might now write the report, in this position, other people will write the report. They'll be getting that development. They'll be using their skills, and instead you're guiding it, or you're reviewing it, or you're framing it. You're delegating that work to other people to develop them, and then not doing that work yourself. And there's other things that is filling that time. And I think if you can't you don't do that, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, I still struggle a lot, but there's just not enough time to be able to take on everything and keep doing everything that you were previously doing in that role. So yeah, that's one strategy to trying to help sustain a more manageable work-life balance. But yeah, it's like I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it. I think sometimes you need to put like physical reminders, like meetings in your calendar to say like stop work, girl. And that's definitely what I tell my team. So I think it's one of those situations where I'm like telling everyone else to do what I should also be doing sometimes. But yeah, it's not bad right now. Like I'm not working out on the weekends. I'm enjoying my weekends, and you clock off. You just turn off your computer. You turn off your phone, and make sure that time where you're not working, you're actually doing other things. And yeah, spending time with your family, and then just pick it back up on Monday morning. Yeah.
Ooh, I don't even have to use on my phone.
Good.
Because I'm not that important and work first of all. And I was like, yeah, if I'm done with work, I'm done with work. It's not that urgent. I'll get to it when I'm back in office. Now we'll go into the 5 questions. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Okay. I think. Oh yeah, good question. I think it wasn't this prolific statement that just stuck with you and you think of it every single day. But as a kid, you're faced with a new situation, or maybe it's public speaking or something, and you get really anxious and really nervous and really stressed out about this thing. I remember teachers would, or a teacher when I was probably like 6 or something, was just that, what is the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
And she's like, are you going to die? Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm just talking to someone. Like, you're not going to die. And like, that's the extreme example of where it starts. But I think even today, if you're preparing for something and you want this, like even just today, like that example right there is, what is the worst that can happen? And then trying to be prepared for that. So that when the challenge does get thrown your way, or the question that the awkward questions asked that you're not looking forward to, or you've stuffed up, or in a job and you're about to like have to tell someone about it, like prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
And it will just make you feel that little bit more ready.
Yeah.
For it, and just help with that the nerves a little bit. So I think it's not this crazy. Oh my gosh, that's like amazing.
In a way, it is, right? Yeah. And it does make sense. An engineering challenge that you think will define the next decade?
I would hope that it's climate and emissions. In my career so far, I guess feel that it takes a lot of momentum and policy and money and investment for things to actually happen and change. The mining industry is an example. Like, just before I sort of joined, had gone through this big wave. This is in Queensland, around water related risks. There'd been a lot of probably wet years and a lot of impacts related to water, and it forced the state government at the time to put in a lot of new policies around water management, and it just started this whole decade of focus around water management, so that now it's in a much better space than it was 10-20 years ago. So I think the policy and enforcement element, it does play a role in helping move industry in the right direction. So things like emissions, we hear about it every single day, but I still think we're at that stage where people can't sort of overlook the immediate impact that investment in that technology, to try and reduce emissions by, moving maybe away from coal into renewables or something like that. Like it's having an impact on the economy and people now, in terms of prices and standard of living and cost of living crisis. And there's not enough backing in our policies or the investment in the budgets to sort of go, okay, we can deal with both of these things at the same time. We can try and help support people to the transition into making it to progressing towards like an industry or an energy market that is less reliant on these high emitters, but also actually make that happen. Like I guess what I'm saying is I feel that we're still in this like debating phase around this issue and whether it's a big enough issue to actually like agree that we definitely do something about it now that's actually going to have like a meaningful impact. So I would hope that we continue to have those discussions, but ultimately get to a space over the next 10 years where we are doing things. We are still doing things. We're not coming up to election time and debating about whether or not we will even do these things, It's just going to propagate the problem. And I'm fully acknowledging and know that every country, because this is the global issue, is in different stages of their development, their reliance on coal and gas and things like that. So it's around acknowledging that transition for every country, and sort of just taking that investment into budgets and policies, and actually trying to agree to continue to work on it and come out on the other side with something that ultimately is better than what it is at the moment.
Allow me to ask what you would say to someone who is potentially thinking that might not be a real thing. Especially like the climate change stuff.
I think it's healthy to ask why or want to understand someone's position on anything. And in our area of engineering, we try and back up these issues with facts and research. And I'm sure there does need to be more and more of that. And then there is, lots of that happening. So I think it's I don't think people should just be like, it's happening, like just accept it. Like we have to be able to explain why and explain how, and acknowledge that if something plays out not the way that you're expecting, you assume, I don't know, like temperatures are going to go up by a degree, and then they don't, like being able to admit, okay, do we need to revise our models or what? We do it with, again, like in the water balance space, we calibrate models. We might predict something and then we refine it over time. We get new data and we refine it to ensure that it's continue to predict the most accurate outcomes it can. And that's, in the climate space, a lot of this is based on predictions. And we need to continue to refine those predictions. But being able to take that data and then, I guess, back up why you believe in the position you do, and it works on both sides. So people who don't maybe believe it or do feel it's not a thing should be basing that on their facts as well.
Well, that's a good way to look at it. If you could teach an engineering concept to everyone in the world, what would it be?
I'm going to say critical thinking. So it's not like, it's not an equation. It's not a specific technical thing, but it's been so important for me, and I think it's helped me as a professional develop by, and it actually just goes back to what we were talking about, but the climate change thing. Like, if someone presents you with a problem or an answer or something, sanity checking it in your mind, asking yourself, is that right? Or what about this? Good examples are if you're doing a report or trying to solve an equation or something, like everyone's going to give you, here's an example we did before, or you Google it and it's going to come up with some examples, and you use them to try and guide your output, because that's efficient, right? That's smart. But you need to have that ability to question what it is you're reading and going, is this appropriate to my situation? What do I need to change? What do I need to challenge? Does that feel right? Is this the outcome I sort of expected? Like, they're all questions you can ask yourself to ensure that, what you're doing is fit for purpose, or try and pick up on maybe accidental errors. I think it's really important in engineering. We might do work sometimes that's a little bit of like repeat or repetitive, but always having that ability to sort of question what you're doing ensures that you get a better outcome, right? And that you're doing something that's worthwhile and valuable to whoever it is you're doing it for. Mm.
What's one thing you wish you had more time to do outside of work?
Sleep. No. I'm not even a parent yet. Look, I have a dog. She's beautiful, and love to just have time to be able to walk her, hang out with her, like hiking and stuff. So
what's her name?
Her name's Mocha.
Why aren't you hanging out more with Mocha?
Oh, don't tell her that. She'll and this is the work-life balance thing. No, it's good. Like, she's lucky and gets to have us stay at home sometime, and sometimes and work from home and look after her. And she's a very spoiled dog. Don't get me wrong. Incredibly spoiled.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting a dog, and I tabled it to my roommate. And we're still in the debating phase of whether or not
you should
get one.
You should.
And finally, what's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
It is walking per, which is something that have to do anyway for her well-being. But I was talking to someone about it recently around if you don't have a dog, or maybe you don't have like a child that you're pushing in like a pram or something, we don't often just see individuals maybe walking around a neighborhood at night by themselves, or if we do, we're like, maybe I should stay away from that person. But dog is actually such a good exercise to just walk. You're not on your phone, or I try not to be on my phone. I'm also not listening to anything because there's too much traffic around. I just want to be aware of the surroundings. So it forces you to just take a step back from being stimulated by all of this stuff, and just be in the moment. You're going over the same streets every single day, but it's a relaxing exercise, even though it's so simple. I'll have to figure out a way of being able to still do that every day, and when she's not with us anymore, because it's good. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to make time for the podcast.
No, thanks for
also sharing your wisdom. And until next time, thanks for watching.